Problem number 1 tayo. So, the corporation was incorporated with the following authorized capitalization: 40,000 shares of common stock, no par value. Stated value is 40, tapos 10,000 shares, 5% cumulative preferred stock, par value is 10 per share. During 2002, Amelia issued 24,000 shares of common stock for a total of 1,200,000 and 6,000 preferred stock at 16 per share. In addition, on December 20, subscription of 2,000 shares of preferred stock were taken at a purchase price of 17. Okay? These subscribed shares were paid for on January 2 of the succeeding year. What should Amelia report as total contributed capital on its December 31 balance sheet? Okay, so record muna natin yung mga items natin. Okay. So start tayo doon sa 24,000 common stock. Okay, multiply natin. Ay, actually, given na yun eh. Common shares na lang to. This is already 1,200,000. Tapos meron tayong preferred, yung 6,000 preferred shares. Magkano yun? 16 pesos. So, kapag kinompute natin yon, 6,000 times 16, that's going to be 96,000. Okay. Pagkatapos, we have may subscription tayo dito na, what's this? This is 2,000 na preferred shares. Multiply natin ng 17, no? 17. Okay, so pag multiply natin yun, 2,000 times 17, that's going to be 34. Okay. Okay, ang tinatanong kasi sa atin is contributed capital. So pag sinabing total contributed capital, this pertains to the total amount of assets or whatever consideration that we received. Okay? So the concern here is if you are going to get the total. Okay, so total mo lang muna dito, no? So pag kinuha natin yung total niyan, that's going to be 1,330,000. Okay, pero take note, we still have subscriptions receivable. Okay? Hindi pa kasi yan contributed. Okay, we cannot consider that as part ng contributed kapag hindi pa naman talaga na-contribute. Okay, parang ganyan yung concept niyan. So, we cannot also consider subscriptions receivable as an asset because subscriptions receivable is treated as a deduction to shareholders' equity. Okay, so ibabawas din lang natin yung 34 kasi fully paid lang yan nung ating ang tawag dito, fully paid lang yan nung kasunod na taon. So as of December 31, ang contributed lang talaga, okay, the contributed capital is only 1,296. Okay, kaya ang sagot dito ay letter C. Pero kasi depende kung this is adopted US GAAP or not eh. Okay, so that's the concept here. Siyempre sa Philippines, ito talaga sagot natin, letter C. Okay? Pag US GAAP yan, okay, the answer is letter D. Because they have a different treatment doon sa ating shareholders equity. Pero for us, we'll stick with the original answer, which is 1,296. Okay, because the 34 is not yet a contributed amount. Okay, kasi wala pa naman tayong natanggap na asset or whatever consideration. Okay, kasi the payment was only made January 2. Okay. So yan yung answer natin dyan sa number 1. we go to the second one. On June 1, the company issued 8,000 shares of its 10 par common stock to Dixon for a tract of land. The stock had a fair market value of 18 per share. And on the last property tax bill, the land was assessed at 96. Mason should record an increase in additional paid-in capital of, okay. So, again, the concern here is, what fair value are we going to follow? Are we going to follow the fair value that is based on the market value of the stock or based on the last property tax bill? Okay. Take note, if that was the last property tax bill, malamang luma na yan, okay? So, na-assess pa yan before, it may not be updated, okay? So, probably that is not, or it is not correct for us to use the last property tax bill as the basis of the value of the shares, okay? Or the value of the consideration, no? So, what we are going to do is we are going to consider the fair value of 18 pesos, which is going to be our basis of the additional paid-in capital or our share premium. So that is going to be, if 10 pesos yun, tas 18 siya, so basically that's going to be 8 times 8,000. So that's going to be equal to 64,000. So yan na yung sagot natin dito. Okay, so kaya 64,000 yung sagot sa number 2. We cannot use the fair value na 96 because that is not the, or it is not the most updated, or it is not the most clearly determinable amount. Okay? Kung sana this is assessed also at fair value, ganon, pwede pa. Pero sinabi kasi dito, naka-fair market value na to eh. So malamang this is traded. Okay? So yun yung sagot natin sa number 2. Okay, number 3 tayo. On August 1, the company reacquired 4,000 shares of its 15 par value common stock for 18 per share. Okay, gumamit ka ng cost method daw to account for the treasury stock. So, anong journal entry ang i-record for the acquisition? So, that is straightforward naman. Ang gagawin lang natin dyan is to recognize the treasury share at cost. So, that's going to be 4,000 times 15. So, that's going to be, 4,000 times 18 pala kasi that is the cost, no? So if we're going to compute for that, that's going to be 4,000 shares times 18 pesos na cost, that's going to be 72. Okay? So lagay na lang natin dito yung ating solution. That's 4,000 shares times 18 pesos, which is the cost. Okay? So that's going to be 72,000. Okay. So yun yung answer natin. Kaya letter D ang sagot. We record the treasury stock at cost. Kung magkano natin siya na bili. Okay. Next, number 4. The corporation was organized with authorized capital of 100,000 shares of 10 peso per common stock. Tapos, during the same year, ito yung mga transactions na. So, January 7, nag-issue ng 40,000 shares at 12 per share. Tapos, December 2, bumili ng 6,000 shares treasury shares, at 13 per share. So the cost method was used to record the treasury stock. Net income daw is 300,000. What is the amount of the stockholders' equity at December 31 of the current year? Okay, so ilista na lang natin yung mga items natin. So first, meron tayong common. Gamitin na lang natin yung ginamit na term dun, ha. So common shares natin dito, which is computed at, that's 40,000. 40,000 times par value is 10. Okay? So that's already 400,000. Then we have the share premium. The share premium is, of course, yung amount din na 40,000. Multiply natin dun sa sobra. The sobra is 2. Okay? So that's going to be 80,000. And then we have to deduct the treasury shares. Treasury shares purchased at 6,000 times 13. So, compute muna natin yon. 6,000 times 13. So that's 78,000. Bawas yun. Okay, and then we have yung retained earnings, which is based on the amount of the income. Net income is 300. Okay, so this is our total shareholders equity. So compute lang natin. That's 400,000 plus 80,000 plus 300,000 minus 78,000. Ay, sumobra ako. Sorry. That's 780,000 minus 78. So that's going to be 702,000. Okay, so that's the answer for this particular problem. Yan, okay? So, 702,000. Basic lang naman yan. Okay, next tayo. We go to number 5. So, the corporation holds 10,000 shares of its par common stock as treasury stock, which was purchased at 120. So, if that is 120 tas 10,000 shares, binili mo ng 12 per share. 12 pesos per share. On December 10, pinenta daw niya lahat yung treasury shares for 210. Assuming that the company uses cost method, okay, what should be the result? Okay, so gawin na lang natin, gawan natin ng journal entry para at least makita natin yung effect niya. So yung first entry natin, nag-record tayo ng treasury shares dito. Binili natin siya at 120. Tapos credit tayo ng cash dito. 120 rin. Okay? Pagkatapos, nung binenta natin yung treasury shares, so it's going to be debit to cash. Ang cash natin, 210. Pagkatapos, nung bumili tayo at 210, credit natin yung treasury shares. Treasury shares will be 120 at cost, siyempre. Okay, tas yung sobra, that's going to be recorded as part of share premium treasury shares. TS na lang para shortcut. So that's going to be 210,000 minus 120. So that's 90,000. Okay, so based on this information, the answer here will be letter A. Because our share premium or the additional paid-in capital from treasury stock is 90. Okay? Pag 110 nilagay mo, mali yan. Walang gain kasi this is a treasury share transaction. Retained earnings is not affected also unless na kulangan, di ba? So, ang labas naman dyan, share premium siya. So, retained earnings will not be affected. So, the answer for number 5 is letter A. Okay, number 6 tayo. On March 2, Ross Corporation issued 4,000 shares of its 6% cumulative 100 par preferred stock for 434,000. Each preferred share carried one non-detachable stock warrant which entitled the holder to acquire at 17 pesos one share of the common stock. Okay? So generally kapag may ganyan, 1:1 yan. Okay, on March 2, the market price of the preferred stock without the warrants was 90 per share and the market price of the stock warrant was 15 per warrant. Okay? The amount credited to paid-in capital in excess of par preferred, okay, on the issuance of the stock was, okay, so ang issue natin dito is in-issue kasi natin siya at lump sum. Ayan, no? Naka-lump sum price kasi. So, kailangan nating ihatiin yung value ng ating shares at saka ng warrant. Okay? Ang okay dito, binigay naman sa atin kung magkano yung price ng warrant. Okay? Yung preferred share without the warrant. Tapos, binigay din yung fair value ng warrant. Okay? So, pwede natin ngayong hatiin yung so dito, pwede natin hatiin ngayon yung what you call this? Yung fair value niya. Okay. Now, the concern here is kasi nakuha to from US GAAP. nakalagay non-detachable stock warrant. Okay, so if it is non-detachable, the issue here is you cannot actually remove the warrant, di ba? So yun lang naman talaga yun. This is US GAAP based kasi. So ang gagawin mo lang dito, since nakuha mo ng 434, edi 4,000 times 100, yun na yung papasok sa preferred share, tas yung difference, yun na yung papasok sa excess. Okay? So ang lalabas dyan, 434 minus yung par value na 400,000, 34 yung lalabas. Letter C. Okay? So yan yun. Yan yung lalabas. Kasi US GAAP based ito. Non-detachable pa yung sinabi. Okay? So kapag sinabing detachable, then ang gagawin mo is we're going to allocate 434, okay, using the relative fair market value approach. So in this case, parang ang mangyayari, ang fair value ng shares will be 4,000 times 90. So if that is 4,000 times 90, parang 360. Pagkatapos yung sa warrant, 1:1 ang labas doon. So 1 warrant, 1 share yon. So ang labas, 4,000 shares times 15. So 4,000 yon times 15, that's 60. Okay, so parang ang labas, 360 plus 60. Okay, so 420 ang magiging total natin. So ang mapupunta kay preference share ngayon will be 360,000. Tama ba? 360. Ulitin ko lang Double check ko lang para sure. 4,000 times 90. Tama. 360 divided by 420 yung total na fair value. So parang 0.85 something. Okay, kasi hindi siya terminating. So multiply natin dun sa 434. So parang ang makukuha ni preference shares 372,000, which is not actually possible because you cannot issue shares below the par value. Okay? Kaya ang sagot dito, this is US GAAP based. That's going to be 434, bawas mo lang dun sa par value, kaya 34,000 yung sagot. Okay, hindi kasi possible na ikaw ay issue ng shares below par value. Okay, kaya pag nag-ratio and proportion ka, makukuha mo yung 372, that's already incorrect. Okay, so yan yung sagot natin sa number 6. 7 tayo. On January 2, Stoner Corporation granted stock options to key employees. So, this is also in a way, parang example na rin natin siya for share-based payments. So, meron daw stock options to key employees for the purchase of 60,000 shares of the company's common stock at 25 per share. The options are intended to compensate employees for the next 2 years. So, may vesting period na 2 years. The options are exercisable within a 4-year period beginning January 1 after nung vesting period. So parang 2000-2003. Tapos 2004 pwede ka nang mag-exercise. Okay? The market price of the common stock was 32 per share on the date of grant. Tapos Stoner plans to distribute up to 60,000 shares of treasury stock when options are exercised. The treasury stock was acquired by Stoner at a cost of 28 per share and was recorded under the cost method. Assume that no stock options were terminated during the year. How much should Stoner charge the compensation expense for the year ended December 31, 2002? So basically, that's going to be 6,000 shares. Tapos, ito yung pagbili, 25 per share. Okay. Tapos, wait lang. Hanapin natin yung item natin. No stock option terminated in the year. Compensation expense. Okay, sige. So that's going to be 60,000 times 25. Tapos ang fair value. So wala kasing fair value yung option on the grant date . So ang gagamitin natin will be yung intrinsic value. So that's 25 tapos 32 per share on the date of grant. So ibig sabihin ang value ng option is basically 32 minus 25. That's 7 pesos times 60,000. So that's 420. Kuha. Okay. So, ulitin na. Hinahanap kasi natin yung fair value dapat ng options on the grant date. Kaso, ang binigay lang sa atin yung exercise price, tapos walang binigay na fair value, yung options. So, what we are going to do is we look for the intrinsic value. The intrinsic value is basically going to be the difference between the fair value na 32 at saka yung 25 na exercise price. So, 32 minus yung 25 is going to be 7 pesos multiplied by 60,000 shares. So, ang total na value ng options na ibibigay doon sa mga employees ay 420. So, letter A sana, di ba? Pero ang sinabi sa problem, for the next 2 years. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan nilang mag-provide ng service for the next 2 years before they can use the option. So, di-divide pa natin to ng 2. Kaya 210. Ang sagot, letter B. Kung sana binigay yung fair value ng option on the grant date, walang problema. Multiply mo lang yun doon sa number of shares or number of options. Okay? Anyway, 1:1 naman usually yun. So, yun ang sagot sa number 7. So, to put the solution here, that's basically going to be 32 minus 25 multiplied by 60,000 shares. Tapos, divided by 2 years. So, that's going to be 210,000. So, lagay na lang natin yung solution. Oops, okay. Okay, we go to number 8. So, stock split naman to. Okay, for number 8, nagkaroon daw ng split 5-4-2. So, 5 kapalit ng 2. When the market value was 65 per share. Prior to the split, Daniel had 200,000 shares o 15 peso per value stock. After the split, the par value of the stock was, okay. So, this is simple. Ang gagawin lang naman natin is, di ba? Kung ito yung effect, okay, kung ito yung effect ng sa shares, okay, kabaliktaran yung effect doon sa par value. So, parang ganito. Kung 542 ang effect doon sa number of shares, so ibig sabihin yung 200,000 times 5 divided by 2. Okay, so pakita lang natin yon. So, for the number of shares, para comprehensive, number of shares natin dito, that's going to be equal to 200,000, kasi yun yung original number of shares natin, times 5 divided by 2. Okay? So, yun siya. So, kapag kinumpute natin yan, that's going to be 200,000 times 5 divided by 2. That's 500,000 shares. Okay? Doon naman sa par value, wait lang. Okay. Doon sa par value naman natin, is going to be kabaliktaran. Okay? So, ang mangyari dyan, 15 yung par value natin, magiging times 2. So, times 2 divided by 5. Okay? So, ang labas dyan, dumami kasi yung number of shares. So, dapat proportionate din yung magiging decrease naman ng par value. So, ang gagawin mo ngayon dyan, that's going to be 15 times 2 divided by 5. That's going to be 6 pesos. Okay. So, yan na yung answer natin dito. So, the answer is letter B, 6. Okay? So, basta tatandaan mo lang dyan, whatever is the effect doon sa whatever is the effect on the number of shares, kabaliktaran yung effect sa par value. So, ganun din, kapag nagkaroon ng reverse stock split, di ba? Reverse stock split, kukonti or bababa yung number of shares pero tataas yung par value. So, ganun din, ratio and proportion, Same ratio pero babaliktarin mo lang. Okay. Number 9 tayo. So, teka lang, parang naulit. Ay iba. Ito na yung tinatanong dito yung sa ano. So, kopyahin ko na lang tong solution. Yan din naman yun. Okay. So, yan yung sagot natin sa number 9 naman. So, ang hinahanap naman dito is number of shares. So, ito yung solution mo for the number of shares. So, that's going to be letter D, 500,000. Okay. So, that's basically how it works. Okay. Number 10 tayo. On July 1, Rainbow Corporation issued 2,000 shares of its common and 4,000 shares of its preferred stock, lump sum daw 80,000. At this date, the common stock was selling at 18 per share and the preferred stock for 13.5 per share. The amount of proceeds allocated to Rainbow's preferred stock should be. Okay, so ratio and proportion tayo dito. So kunin muna natin yung fair value ng common. So yung common shares natin, that's going to be anong fair value nun? 18, di ba? So 2,000 shares times 18. Okay, so that's going to be equal to 2,000 times 18. That's going to be 36,000. That's yung preferred. That's going to be 4,000 times ang par value nan 13.5, 1350. Okay, so that's going to be equal to 13.5 times 4,000. 54 naman to. Okay. So, that's going to be total dito. So, 36 plus 54, that's going to be 90,000, no? So, ratio and proportion, ang tinatanong lang naman yung sa preferred. It's going to be 54,000 divided by 90,000 times 80,000 na total, 80,000 na proceeds. So that's going to be equal to, so ratio and proportion natin, 54 divided by 90 times 80,000. 48. So 48 ang sagot. So that's letter B. 11. So ano naman ang tinatanong dito? What would be the balance of the paid-in capital from Treasury stock account? Okay, so meron tayong common stock, 100,000 ng authorized, 10 pesos ang par value. During the year, ito yung mga transaction. So we have, nag-issue ka ng 75,000 shares, 14 per share. Pagkatapos, December 27, purchased 5,000 shares at 11 per share. Okay? Ang ginamit nga lang par value method. So again, this is just for illustration purposes. Para lang may idea tayo kung paano mag-compute under yung ating par value method. Ang tinatanong, magkano yung balance in the paid-in capital from Treasury stock account at December 31. Okay? So, gawin lang natin yung entry muna. So, issuance muna tayo. That's going to be debit to cash. The cash amount will be equal to 75,000 times yung 14 per share. That's going to be 1,050,000. Okay. Cash yun na 1,050,000. Pagkatapos, credit tayo dito ng that's going to be anong ginamit? Common shares. Wait, lakayan lang natin to. Okay, so common shares natin. Common shares will now be based on the 10 peso na par value. So that's going to be 750. Okay, pagkatapos, credit tayo dito ng share premium. Okay, yung share premium yung sobra, no? Okay, so that's going to be 300. Tama, no? Okay, yan. Pagkatapos, nung bumili tayo ng 5,000 shares, 11 per share. Okay? Pero, par value method yung ginamit natin. So, again, if that's par value method, we are going to recognize yung ating treasury share at par value. Okay? So, paano natin gagawin yun? 5,000 shares, di ba? Okay. So, that's going to be debit to treasury shares at par value lang. So, that's going to be 5,000 times 10. So, that's going to be 50,000. Okay. May credit tayo sa cash dito. Cash natin dito is going to be 5,000 times 11. So, that's 55, no? Okay. Yung tinatanong, balance of the paid-in capital from treasury stock. Okay. Sige. So, ang mangyari ngayon dyan, pansin mo, di ba nung original issuance, kung 5,000 yon times 14, pakita lang natin di ba 5,000 shares yon. Pagkatapos, original issuance is 14. So, ang nangyari doon, parang 4 pesos yung share premium, di ba? So, ang mangyari doon, 5,000 shares times 4 pesos. So, parang 20,000 yung ating share premium. Tapos, nung ikaw ay bumili ng treasury shares, 11 mo siya binili. Okay? So, parang ang mangyari ngayon dyan is as if i-eliminate natin yung share premium from the original issuance, tapos ililipat natin siya as share premium from treasury shares. So, ang gagawin mo dito, debit ka dito ng share premium na original. Okay? Magiging 20 to. Ano tong 20 na to? Ito yung galing dun sa original issuance. Tapos mag-credit ka dito ng share premium ng treasury shares. So, balancing figure, 15,000 yun. Okay? So, basically, ganun yung mangyari. So, what you did here is, since par value method siya, you are going to transfer the original share premium papunta doon sa share premium treasury shares kasi parang marireclassify din lang daw siya. Pagkatapos, balancing figure yun. Kasi consider mo pa kung magkano mo siya binili. Okay? Kaya ang sagot dito, 15. Okay, letter C. Which is not acceptable in the Philippines. Pinapakita lang natin siya for purposes of understanding ano ibig sabihin ng par value method. Okay? So, yun lang naman siya. Although sa Pilipinas, hindi naman natin ginagamit yan. Okay. Pinapakita lang natin siya for illustration purposes. Okay. So, yan siya. So, kung sakali mong may lumabas na ganyan, hindi naman na par value kasi bawal talaga yan. Okay. So, for purposes of illustration lang to. Sige. Number 12 tayo. Okay, so you were given the details of the shareholders equity. Tapos, meron daw transactions for retirement. Okay, cost method yung ginamit, walang problema. Immediately after retirement of these shares, the balance of the additional paid-in capital and retained earnings account should be. Okay, so basically what we are going to do here is to prepare the entries for the retirement of the shares. So, wala naman kasing, ang ginawa kasi purchase and retired eh. So, pwede naman ang gawin natin, kumpletuhin natin yung entries. Okay, kumpletuhin natin yung entries para hindi tayo magka-problema. So, ganito gagawin natin. So, first record natin yung treasury shares. So, debit natin yung treasury shares at a cost of 1,800,000. Okay, tapos cash tayo dito. Para lang makita natin yung buong kwento. May 1,800,000. Kasi retire na natin siya. So, ang gagawin natin, i-credit natin si treasury shares. Tapos, gagamitin natin yung mga i-recognize natin yung mga items, okay? Or yung mga amounts na gagamitin natin pang retire. So yung first na gagamitin natin pang retire dyan is yung mismong common stock. Okay? Or common stock gamitin natin kasi yun yung nasa account title. So common stock, which is 10 pesos yung par value. So if that's 100,000 shares times 10 pesos, so that's going to be 1 million. Okay? Oops, kulang. Yan. Pagkatapos, tatanggalin din natin yung share premium from the original issuance. So, if that's 900,000 shares, that's 2,700,000, parang 3 pesos, no? 3 pesos ang ating original issuance. So, this is paid in capital. Share premium na lang, Ang haba kasi, paid in capital in excess of par, ang haba. So, share premium original na lang to. Para at least may basis ka kung saan nanggaling yung original. So, that's going to be, ang gagawin mo lang, i-divide lang natin yung 2,700,000 dun sa outstanding shares na 900. Okay, so ibig sabihin, the original share premium was 3 pesos per share. So, this is going to be 300,000. Okay? Tapos, kulang pa, kukuha tayo sana dapat sa share premium treasury. Kaso wala naman tayong share premium treasury, so retained earnings na agad to. Retained earnings. Magkano pa yung kulang? 500,000. Tapos credit mo dito yung treasury shares. 1,800,000. So basically yan na yung item dyan. Yun. Okay? So the answer here is after nung retirement ng shares, magkano yung magiging balance ng paid-in capital natin? Diba? 2,700,000 yon. Tinanggalan natin siya ng 300, so magiging 2,400,000 na lang. Tapos yung retained earnings na 1,300,000, tinanggalan natin ng 500, so ang may iwan na lang 800. So that's letter D. Okay, so yan yung sagot natin sa problem na yan. Okay. Next. So ano naman to? Nag-issue daw for 110 per share, 15,000 shares of par value convertible preferred stock. One share of preferred stock may be converted into 3 shares of YS25 par value common stock at the option of the preferred shareholder. On December, nung time na yon, all of the preferred stock was converted into common stock. The market value of the common stock at the conversion date was 40 per share. What amount should be credited to common stock account on December 31? Common stock account lang naman tinatanong So, ibig sabihin, hanapin lang natin yung par value niyan. Okay? So, par value naman is 25, no? So, walang problema. So, kunin mo yung 15,000 shares na preferred shares to. Multiply natin. Ang sinabi kasi, 1 share of preferred may be converted into 3 shares. So, times 3. Tapos, times par value 25. Sinabi kasi all, di ba? All. So, 25. So, that's going to be, calculate na lang natin, 15,000 times 3 times 25. So, that's 1,125. Yun na yan. Okay? Siyempre, kapag tinanong ka, magkano yung, kunyari, kung tinatanong naman sa'yo, magkano yung ating share premium. So, syempre, ang gagawin mo, upon the conversion, tatanggalin mo yung laman nung preferred. Diba? Tapos, ililipat mo siya papunta dun sa common. Okay? So, kung magkano mo siya inisyo nung last time, although dito kasi hindi kompleto kasi hindi naman binigay sa atin kung magkano yung price ng option. Kasi supposedly, tatanggalin pa natin yung sa total price Okay? So, hindi lang siya kompleto ngayon. So, ang mangyari dyan, tanggalin mo yung laman ng preferred stock, i-debit mo din yung value nung options or nung share options, tas credit natin yung common shares at saka yung share premium. So ang mangyari doon is kung magkano yung balancing amount, yun yung magiging balance ng share premium common. Okay, kaso wala kasi siya doon sa problem kaya hindi natin magawa. Kasi walang number one, hindi kasi binigay sa atin yung value ng options. Okay, para sana mahati natin. Tapos pangalawa, dahil wala ngayon, hindi natin makukuha yung total na consideration natin. Okay, pero kung gusto mong yung basic lang, ang gagawin mo lang dyan is, kunin muna natin kung magkano natin inisyo yung preferred shares, di ba? So that's 110 yung 15,000. So 15,000 times 110, so that's going to be 1,650. So sabihin na natin wala yung tawag dito, sabihin natin wala yung value ng warrants, etc. At the end of the day, 1,650 pa rin naman yung total niyan. Tapos ibawas mo yung 1,125 upon conversion, so ang may iwan is 525. So 525 yung magiging share premium ng ating common shares upon conversion. Okay, so yun yung gagawin doon. Okay, anyway, so that is for number 13. 14 tayo. So the corporation is authorized to issue 100,000 shares of common stock at 10,000 Nag-issue pala siya on that date ng 100,000 shares. 10 pesos yung par value pero 15 pesos per share yung issuance. During the period hanggang December 31, net income is 450. Tapos nagbayad din ng dividend na 230. Noong January 10, bumili ng treasury shares. Okay. Purchase 6,000 shares. Tama. Treasury shares siya. 12 per share. Tapos, on December 31, binenta yung 4,000 treasury shares at 8 per share. Okay. Cost method daw yung ginamit sa treasury shares. Ang tanong, what is the total shareholders equity on that date after considering everything? Okay. So, the best way for us to answer this is to prepare the journal entries para mas comprehensive yung ating computation. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Basically, prepare natin entries muna. So, nag-issue ka so debit tayong cash dito kasi nakatanggap ka ng that's 15 per share tapos 100,000 shares. So, 1,500,000. Tapos, common shares dito. Okay, that's going to be 1 million. Tapos share premium dito. 500. Okay, pagkatapos net income na 450, so that's going to be kunyari na close na lahat yung entries. So 450 to. Tapos, this is going to be retained earnings. Diretso 450. Pagkatapos, bumili ka ng treasury shares. So, that's going to be debit to treasury shares. Kaya 6,000 times 12. So, oops. Sorry. 6,000 times 12, that's going to be 72, no? Okay, 72. Credit tayo dito ng cash ulit. 72. Tapos yung last, ni-reissue natin at 8 pesos per share. Okay? So, ang mangyari dyan, debit tayo ng cash dito. 4,000 shares at 8 pesos. So, that's going to be 32. Tapos, ang credit natin dito na treasury shares, mamaya natin ilagay yung mga other items, ha. If that is 4,000 treasury shares, ang cost niya ay 12, so that's going to be 48. Okay, so this is, reissuance. So, kapag reissuance, ang tatamaan lang niyan is number 1, share premium treasury shares kung meron, tas number 2 is retained earnings. Okay? Pero wala naman tayong share premium treasury shares. So that's going to be automatically charged to retained earnings. So retained earnings natin will be 16. Yan, so basically parang yan yung item natin. Yan. So total natin ngayon yung laman ng ating shareholders equity. So ilagay na lang natin dito. So yung common shares natin, the common shares will remain to be 1 million. Wala namang retirement na nangyari. Our share premium will remain to be 500,000. Hindi naman siya affected. Yung ating treasury shares will now become magkano yung original nito? 72 minus 48. That's 24,000. So 24 na lang to. Tapos yung retained earnings. Retained earnings natin will be 450 minus yung 16. So magiging 434. Yan. Okay. So ito yung total. So total na lang natin. 1 million plus 500,000 plus 434 minus 24. Oops. Wait. Kalimutan ba ako? Wait lang. Common shares, share premium, retained earnings is 450 minus 16. Tapos treasury shares, 72 minus 48. Tama naman. Okay. Baka yung total ko. Wait lang. Ay, may dividends pa pala. Sorry. Hindi ko napansin yung dividends. Sorry. So, dividend tayo. Yung credit natin yung... So, debit tayo dito ng retained earnings. Sorry. Hindi ko nakita yung... Hindi ko na i-record yung ating dividends na 230. Tapos, this is going to be dividends payable. Ay, paid na pala siya. Okay. So, diretso na lang. Cash na lang natin to. Eh, sige, ganyan na muna para makita natin kung saan nanggaling. 230. Tapos paid siya. So, dividends payable. 230. Tapos cash. Yan na lang. Okay. So, yung ating retained earnings will be 434. Bawasan pa natin ng 230. 204 na lang to. Okay, so yung total shareholders equity now will be 1 million plus 500,000 plus 204 minus 24. So that's 1,680. So that's going to be letter D. So highlight lang natin to. Yan. Okay, so the answer here is 1,680. So that's going to be letter D in our problem. Sige, 15 tayo. On February 24, the company purchased 4,000 shares of the newly issued 6% cumulative preferred stock at 304. Each share carried one detachable stock warrant entitling the holder to acquire at 10 pesos one share of wins no par common stock. On February 25, the market price of the preferred stock X warrant was 72 per share and the market price of the stock warrant was 8 per share. On December 29, BMC sold all of the stock warrants for 41,000. The gain on the sale of the stock warrants was, okay, so again, ang nangyari dito is there is now a ang tawag dito, there is one detachable warrant, inisyo ng 304, pagkatapos meron siyang kasamang stock warrant, detachable. Okay. So, the market value X warrant, 72 per share. Tapos market value of the stock warrant was 8 pesos naman. Okay. So, we have no choice. Sundan lang natin. Tapos, binenta daw lahat ng warrants for 41. So, compute muna natin kung magkano yung makukuha dun sa warrant. Binigay naman yung market price ng mga items natin. So, if that's going to be 72 times 4,000, that's 288. Okay, pagkatapos, yung sa warrants naman, each share kasi 1 warrant, so 4,000 times 8 yun. That's 32 plus 288. So, 320 ang total. Kasi, hatiin natin yon. So, parang 32 divided by 320. Okay. Ay, sorry. 32,000 divided by 320,000. So, 10% ng 304. So, that's 30,400. Tapos, binenta ng 41,000. Okay. So, the price of the warrant, okay, naka-ratio in proportion kasi ito. So, the price of the warrant is now going to be like this, no? So, kunin mo yung 32,000 divided by 320. Ito yung total, total fair value. Tapos, i-multiply natin doon sa 304. Okay. So, ang lalabas dito is 30,400. Okay, so basically yung based on ratio and proportion, 30,400 yung price ng warrant. Okay? Pagkatapos, yung sale natin, binenta natin siya at 41,000. 41,000. So, meron tayo ditong gain ngayon. Gain natin is going to be 10,600. Yan. So, basically, inallocate lang natin. Saan natin nakuha tong 320? Basically, ang ginawa natin dyan is, kinompute lang natin kung magkano yung total fair value ng shares at saka ng warrants given na binigay yung fair value. Tapos detachable kasi siya. So, in this case, talagang i-bifurcate natin. Okay. So, number 15 is letter D. Problem 16. Okay, so for number 16, meron daw tayong 200,000 shares outstanding, 10 pesos yung par value. The market price of the stock was 12 per share. On the same date, nag-declare siya ng 1-for-2 reverse stock split. The par value of the stock was increased from 10 to 20 and one new 20 par value share was issued for each of the two 10 peso par outstanding shares. Immediately before the 1-for-2 reverse stock split, the additional paid-in capital was 650. What should be the balance in Black's additional paid-in capital account immediately after the reverse stock split? So, wala naman tong computation. Ang sagot ay letter B pa rin, 650. Because a reverse stock split will not result to any change in the totals. Okay, it will only change the amounts nung per share or yung per share values natin. Pero yung total natin, it will still remain to be the same. So the answer for number 16 is letter B, 650 pa rin. Okay, proceed tayo dun sa next. Dun naman tayo sa number 17. So, the company owned 30,000 common shares of Dayton Corporation purchased for 540. On September 20, the declaration ng property dividend of 1 share of Dayton for every 5 shares of Clayton held by a stockholder. On that date, there were 50,000 common shares of Clayton outstanding, and the market value of the shares was 30 per share. So the entry to record the declaration of the dividend will be a debit to retained earnings of. Okay, so ang gagawin mo lang dyan is, kunin mo muna yung 50,000 shares ni Clayton. Okay, 50,000 shares. Tapos i-divide natin doon sa 5 kasi 5 yung kailangan eh. So ang lalabas dito 10,000 shares of Dayton ang i-issue. Multiply natin dun sa market value na 30. Lalabas dyan 300,000. Okay, so ibig sabihin 300,000 yung value. Okay, we're going to use of course the fair value because on the date of declaration, we will always debit retained earnings, okay, and credit the property dividend payable at the fair value of the dividend. That's 300,000, letter B. Okay, we go to 18. Okay, so anong tinatanong sa atin dito? Magkano balance ng dividends payable? O sige. So, na-organize yung ating corporation. Meron siyang 10% cumulative preferred stock and common stock. Okay? Net income for the year was 900,000. No dividends were declared. Okay? Beldon's balance sheet would report dividends payable at December 31 of. The answer is 0 because there were no declarations. Even though the preferred shares are cumulative, okay, there will be no dividends payable until there is a declaration. Okay, so ilagay na lang natin na note dito, dividends in arrears will only be disclosed. Disclosed lang. Yan, walang payable na i-recognize. Okay, kaya 0 ang sagot. Okay, so that's our answer for number 18. 19 tayo. Magkano ang entry or the entry to record declaration of property dividend would include a debit to retained earnings of. Okay. So, nag-declare daw siya ng dividend, property dividend as follows. So, investment in 100,000 shares of Astro Corporation stock carrying value 600,000, fair market value on September 20, 1,450, tapos market value on September 30, 1,575. Okay. So, kailan ba ang declaration? 20. So, ibig sabihin, to record the declaration pa lang yung tinatanong. So, on September 20, the declaration date, okay, magkano ang i-debit natin for property dividend? Of course, the fair value on that date, which is 1,450. So, yun na yun, no? 1,450. Tapos, magre-remeasure ka na lang ulit ng additional debit doon sa property dividend payable kapag magkakaroon na ng settlement kasi kailangan mo muna siyang i-remeasure at fair value again. Pero on the date of declaration, of course, the fair value on that date, which is 1,450. So, the answer for 19 is letter B. Okay, so lagay natin ng note dito. Use the fair value at the date of declaration. Wala namang issue dyan sa problem na yan. Okay, 20 tayo. This is now a quasi-reorganization. Okay. So the board of directors of Overeager Company decided that the company should undergo a quasi-reorganization effective on December 31. On that date, the company determined the following asset values. The stockholders' equity section is presented below also. And then the question there is The quasi organization is to be accomplished by reducing the par value of the stock to 15 per share. So ibig sabihin yung patatanggal, lilipat natin sa APIC or sa share premium. Immediately after the quasi reorganization, the common stock amount would be. So actually wala namang wala namang masyadong computation kasi hindi naman na tinuloy yung ibang mga tanong. Ang tinatanong lang yung common stock lang. Okay, although this could have been a good example of quasi reorganization para maging comprehensive siya, no? Although sige, gawin na rin natin para hindi sayang yung problem. Ituloy na rin natin kung paano natin i-remeasure. Okay. So basically, ganito muna gawin natin. Remeasure muna natin yung inventory kasi book value is 100, market value is 110. So debit tayo ng inventory dito at 10,000. Tapos credit tayo ng retained earnings. 10,000 din. Pagkatapos, yung building, book value is 800, market value is 400. So we are going to recognize a debit to retained earnings, 400. Tapos credit tayo dito ng building, 400 din. Okay, tapos equipment 180 tas 140. So ibig sabihin, kailangan nating bawasan ulit ng 40. So retained earnings ulit to. 40. Credit tayo ng ulit to, equipment. 40. Yan, okay? So that's basically yung mga first adjustments natin. Tapos ang next na gagawin, babawasan natin yung common stock. 80,000 shares issued and outstanding. Tatanggalan natin ng 5 pesos kasi 15 na lang yung may iwan. That's going to be a debit to common stock. Okay, that's going to be 80,000 times 5. So that's going to be 400. Oops, sorry. It's going to be 400,000. Credit tayo dito ng retained earnings. 400,000 ulit. Okay. So ngayon, kung mapapansin mo, yung 1.6 doon, babawasan lang natin ng 400. So, ang mangyari, magiging 1.2. So, letter B na yung sagot natin dyan. Pero to complete the quasi reorganization, kailangan nating alamin kung magkano na yung balance ng retained earnings. Okay, so this is now the updated deficit. Okay. So, the updated deficit will be, magsa-start tayo ng 700,000. Sorry, okay. Start tayong 700,000. Pagkatapos, dagdagan, di ba deficit yon? Bawasan natin ng 10,000 kasi meron na tayong credit doon. Dalawang debit, dagdag na naman yon, 440. Okay? Tapos, bawasan natin ng 400,000 para doon sa credit sa retained earnings. So, meron pang 730. Okay? Ay, wait lang. Anong sabi dito? Reducing par value. Okay. Actually, pwede naman diretso mo sa retained earnings pang bawas. Okay. Pero may nawawala pa ring 730. Okay. Actually, ang entry talaga dito, kung gusto mong wag munang magbawas sa retained earnings, ipasok mo muna sa APIC. Tapos APIC na lahat ang mag-absorb. Okay. So basically, assume na lang natin gamitin natin yung totoong entry. Kasi ito diniretso ko anyway. Sa APIC din naman, sa retained earnings din naman. Ilalagay mo muna to sa share premium. Yan, share premium muna siya. So basically, ang updated na deficit natin will be, balik natin yung 400,000 muna. 1,130. 1,130,000. Tapos, ang gagawin mo na lang dyan, ibabangga natin doon sa APIC. Ang APIC natin, yung 800, dagdagan mo pa ng 400, magiging 1,2. So, yung share premium will be 1,200,000. Okay? Kasi yun yung 800 na dagdagan ng 400 dito. So, ang gagawin mo ngayon dyan, next entry natin will be to debit share premium na 1,130. Tapos credit ka dito ng retained earnings. 1,130. Yun. So, zero out na lahat yung utang. So, ngayon, ano ang balances natin? So, the balances will be as follows. Yung common stock natin ngayon, common stock will become 1,200,000. Share premium. Share premium, basically, mauubos na kasi 1,130, 12. So, 70 na lang yung may iwan dyan. Tapos, retained earnings, 0. Yan. So, ganyan yung magiging item natin dito. Yan. So, lagyan na lang natin siya ng ibang kulay para makita natin yung solution. Yan. So, basically, this will be the entries. At the end of the day, after the cost reorganization, dapat mag-zero out yung ating retained earnings deficit. Okay? So, ang mangyayari, ito na lang yung may iwan doon sa ating records. Pero ang tinatanong lang naman sa atin, common stock. So, yung kaninang solution natin, basically, you just get the number of shares, multiply mo ng 15. Yun na yung sagot, letter B. Diretso. Okay. Sige. 21. On June 1, Patriot Corporation declared a stock dividend entitling its shareholders to 1 additional share for each share held. 1:1. So, kung 1:1 yan, 100% stock dividend yan. Kung 100% stock dividend yan, that's a large stock dividend. So, kapag large stock dividend yan, then what we are going to do is to get the par value, multiply it by the number of shares na may issue. So, at the time of the dividend declaration, the market value of the stock was 10. Ignore natin yan. Par value is 5. So, 5 gagamitin natin. On this date, you have 1,000,000 shares of common stock authorized, of which 600,000 shares were outstanding. O doon tayo magbe-base. So, that's going to be, compute lang natin, this will be 600,000 times 5, diretso, 3 million. So, the answer for number 21 will be letter C. Retained earnings tapos common stock distributable. Okay, yun na siya. Par value lang tayo kasi large stock dividend. 22. The stockholders' equity section of Dolphin Corporation as of December 31 contained the following. The board of directors declared a 10% stock dividend. So, 10% stock dividend is small. Tapos, when the market value of the stock was 7, so yun ang gagamitin natin. Accordingly, 1,000 shares were issued. Okay, all of Dolphin stock has a par value of 3 pesos per share, assuming Dolphin sustained a net loss of 12,000 for the quarter ended March 31. What amount should Dolphin report as retained earnings as of April 1? Okay, so gagawin natin, prepare natin yung entries relating to the transaction. So first, prepare natin yung sa issuance ng 10% stock dividend equivalent to 1,000 shares. So debit to retained earnings to. Retained earnings will be debited for 1,000 shares times the market value na 7. So 7,000 to. Tapos ito ay stock dividend distributable. Distributable. Yan muna kasi hindi pa naman siya naging common stock. I-distribute pa lang siya. Okay. 7,000. Sorry. This is anong par value nito? 3 pesos. Okay. So that's going to be 3,000. Okay. Pagkatapos, ito yung share premium. 4,000. Okay. Pagkatapos, nag-sustain din siya ng net loss na 12,000. So, close na lang natin kunyari. Retained earnings natin will be 12,000. Debit. Credit tayo ng income summary. Kunyari natapos na natin yung closing entries. 12,000. Okay, so from there, if your initial balance was 80,000, pagkatapos nagbawas tayo ng 7,000 for the dividends at saka 12,000 for the loss, ang may iwan 61,000 na lang. So retained earnings balance is equal to 80,000 minus 7,000 minus 12,000. Okay, so that's 61,000. Okay, so yun yung sagot natin sa problem na yun. 23. Okay, so the company has the following: common stock 20 pesos par value, 20,000 shares outstanding, and preferred stock 6%, 100 par value cumulative. Okay, 2,000 shares outstanding. No dividends were paid on preferred stock for 2 years. Okay? Kung kasama yung this year, parang 3 years na total. On December 31, a total cash dividend of 200,000 was declared. What are the amounts of dividends payable on both the common and preferred stock respectively? So, ang feature lang naman ng ating preferred stock ay cumulative lang, walang participation. So, ibig sabihin, bigay lang muna natin yung total sa kanya. So, sa preferred muna, preferred stock, that's going to be equal to, if that is 100 ang par value, tapos 2,000 shares, so that's going to be 200,000 times 6% times 3 years. Yun yung total niya. Okay, yun yung mabibigay sa preferred. Okay, so compute natin yun. 200,000 times 0.06 times 3 years, so that's 36,000. Tapos, yung para sa common, so yung sa common shares, that's going to be, magkano yung total na dineclare? 200,000 minus 36,000. It's going to be equal to 164. Yan na. So, although baliktad lang yung pagkakalagay dun sa ating choices, pero yun yung items natin dyan. Wala namang issue kasi, actually madali lang to kasi cumulative lang naman. Pag participating, gagawa ka pa ang table. Okay, next. 24. On June 30, the company declared and issued a 10% stock dividend. Prior to this dividend, meron siyang 60,000 shares of 10 peso par value common stock issued and outstanding. The market price of the common stock on the date of declaration was 24. As a result of this dividend, by what amount would the total stockholders' equity increase or decrease? The answer is 0. Okay, kasi yung stock dividends will not affect total shareholders' equity. Shareholders' equity, okay, since this will result to transfers within equity only. Okay. So, yan na yung sagot natin. Kaya 0 yung sagot natin. Kasi, wala namang effect talaga yan dun sa total shareholders equity. Kasi ang entry mo dyan, retained earnings, tapos stock dividends payable, at saka, or stock dividends distributable, at saka share premium. Okay, so in that case, kung tatanggal ka ng equity component, magdidagdag ka rin sa other equity component. So that is 424. Okay, 25 tayo. On January 2, okay, the board of directors declared cash dividend. Okay. The dividend is permissible by law in Gimli State of Incorporation. Okay, selected date are as follows. So, ang tinatanong dito, out of the 1,200,000 dividend, magkano ang liquidating dividend. So, wala namang kaso yan, no? Madali lang to. So, what we are going to do is to get the 1,200,000 total dividend. Okay? The amount of the retained earnings is only 500,000. Okay? So, meaning the difference, okay, is already the liquidating dividend. So, 1,200,000 minus the retained earnings balance of 500,000. The difference is going to be 700,000 liquidating dividend. Yun na. Yun na yung sagot natin sa problem na yan. Yeah, 'di ba actually ang general rule lang natin talaga for wasting assets is you can declare dividend up to the retained earnings plus the total balance of the total amount of the accumulated depletion doon sa ating wasting assets. So supposedly pag tinanong 'yon, ang sagot lang dapat natin maximum allowed dividend is 700,000, which is retained earnings plus the accumulated depletion from the wasting asset. That is based on the wasting asset doctrine. Pero itong problem na to, sumobra pa siya kasi allowed nga daw doon sa lugar kung saan siya na-incorporate. Pero for Philippine CPA purposes, ang maximum dividend lang dapat is retained earnings plus the amount of the accumulated depletion. So dapat 700,000 lang ang sagot natin doon na total dividend. Pero hindi naman yun ang tinatanong dito under wasting asset doctrine. So sundan na lang natin. Okay, sige. 26. Ano naman to? Ang tinatanong is how much additional paid-in capital from reorganization will initially be recorded with the entry to reduce the par value of the common stock. Okay, sige. So this is another quasi-reorganization. So ito yung mga balances. Quasi-reorganization daw. Ang gagawin, new par value will be 10 pesos. Equipment is written down 152. Inventory is increased by 8,000. Okay. So, pag i-reduce yung par value, magkano daw yung lalabas? So, ang gawin natin, i-reduce natin muna yung par value. So, that's going to be 60,000 shares, di ba? So, debit tayo ngayon ng common stock. That's going to be 10 na lang daw yung new par value. So, from dating 20, no? So, basically, pwedeng hatiin mo na lang to ng 600,000 din yung lalabas. Or kung ayaw mong maniwala, kunin mo yung 60,000, multiply mo ng 10. Okay? Yan din lang yan. Tapos, is this going to be part of share premium na? Or APIC? 600,000. Okay, tuloy na lang natin para comprehensive ulit yung ating quasi-reorganization. Equipment daw written down. Tapos, inventory increase daw ng 8,000. So, inventory natin, dagdagan natin ng 8,000. Malamang balancing figure dito yung retained earnings. Okay. Kasi 150 to yun eh. Tapos, 8,000 lang yung increase. Ito, this is going to be equipment. Written down by 152. Babawasan daw ng 152. Okay, so ibig sabihin yung retained earnings natin dito will be 144. Tama ba? Oh. Yan, 144. Yan. Tapos, yung next entry natin for quasi-reorganization, i-eliminate na natin yung deficit. So, yung deficit natin na 540, nadagdagan pa siya ng 144. So, magiging 684 na siya. So, debit ka ng retained ng share premium dito na 684. Okay. Tapos, share premium. Retained earnings. 684. Okay, so after that, ang mangyari, yung common shares natin will become 600,000 Yung share premium natin will be, di ba yung 150, dagdagan natin ng 600, bawasan natin nung balance ng retained earnings na 540 na original, tsaka yung naibawas pa na 144. So 66 na lang yung may iwan dito. Tapos retained earnings 0. Yan. So ito yung sagot natin dito. Tulagyan natin ng yan, para ito yung balances. Yan. So basically that is our answer for this particular problem. Okay. Next tayo. Same question, no? Na-solve naman natin sa taas kanina. Ang tinatanong ngayon dito, magkano daw yung net increase in the deficit from revaluation of assets? The answer is 144. Refer to solution above na lang. Oops. Yan. Pinakita naman natin kanina yan. Ito yun, no? Yung increase in deficit na 144 due to the revaluation of asset. 144 yung sagot. Yan. Okay. Next tayo. Anong tinatanong dito? Magkano balance ng retained earnings? Okay, so nag-declare ng 10% stock dividend. Tapos for the 3 months ended, nag-sustain ng loss na 64. Okay, so what will be the balance? Okay, so recognize na lang ulit natin yung journal entries natin dito. So debit tayo ng retained earnings. Retained earnings will be equal to 1,800,000 times 16. So 28,800 yung madidebit sa atin. Credit tayo dito ng share dividends distributable. That's going to be 18,000. Tapos yung difference is going to be share premium. Share premium will be 10,800. Okay, pagkatapos nag-sustain ng loss, so recognize tayo dito ng debit to retained earnings ulit. Credit tayo dito ng income summary. 64. Okay, so from there, balance ng ating retained earnings will be, nag-start tayo sa 192. Bawasan natin ng 28,800 at saka 64. So 99,200 na lang yung may iwan. Letter A. Okay, so yun yung sagot natin dyan. Pakita na lang natin dito sa baba para kompleto. So 192 minus 28,800 minus 64 equals 99,200 balance. Okay, so yan yung sagot natin dyan. Next, we go to number 29. So, cash dividends on 10 peso par value common stock of Duckbill Company were as follows. So, cash dividends yung mga yan. Okay. The fourth quarter cash dividend was declared on December 20 to stockholders of record on December 31. Payment of the fourth quarter dividend was made on January 9, succeeding year. In addition, Sackville declared a 5% stock dividend on its 10 peso par value common stock on December, when there were 150 shares issued and outstanding, and the market value of the common stock was 20 per share. The shares were issued on December 1 of the same month or same year. What was the effect on Sackville's stockholders' equity account as a result of the dividend transaction? Okay, so pertaining to common stock, additional paid-in capital, and retained earnings. So, unahin muna natin yung cash dividend. Okay, kasi lahat naman ito based on cash dividend payment. So, this is simply going to be debit to retained earnings. Okay. Total lang natin lahat yung mga yon. So, that's 400,000 plus 450,000 plus 500,000 plus 550,000. So, that's going to be 1,900,000. Credit tayo dito ng cash dividends payable. Same din, 1,900,000. Pero, out of this, ang nabayaran lang yung tatlo lang. So, this is going to be 850, 1,350. So, 1,350 lang. So, debit tayo dito ng cash dividends payable. Tapos cash dito. 1,350 lang. Yun lang yung nabayaran kasi yung last na dividend nung January next year pa. So, 1,350. Okay, so yan siya. Pagkatapos, nag-declare ka pa ng ating 5% stock dividend. So that's 5% stock dividend that's going to be measured at the market value na 20,000. So kung may 150 doon, kunin mo yung 5% doon, that's going to be 7,500. So this is going to be debit to retained earnings. Okay, so compute lang natin, di ba? 150,000 shares yon times 5% times 20 pesos. So that's 150. 150,000. Credit tayo dito ng stock dividend distributable. Kailan daw in-issue? The shares were issued on the same din lang pala. So diretso na to. Common stock na to. That's going to be 7,500 times anong par value na 10. So that's going to be 75,000. Tapos share premium to. 75 din. Yun. So yun na yung items natin. So as a result of the dividend transactions, ang common stock natin madadagdagan siya ng 75. Yung additional paid-in capital, 75 din. Yung retained earnings is going to be 19 plus yung 150 dun. So that's going to be a total of 2,050,000. So letter B ang sagot natin dyan. Ito yung entries natin. So that's the answer for number 29. We go to number 30. On September 1, the corporation declared and issued a 20% common stock dividend. So 20% is already a large stock dividend. Prior to this date, Steeler had 20,000 shares of 2 peso par value common stock that were both issued and outstanding. The market value of the stock was 20 per share at the time the dividend was issued. As a result of this stock dividend, Steeler's total stockholders' equity, okay, the answer is did not change because this is a stock dividend transaction. Again, same explanation, equity transaction lang to. So it is going to be a transfer within equity, resulting to a decrease in retained earnings and increase in your share capital. So the total stockholders' equity will not change. Okay? 31. Ellie's company has 1 million shares of common stock authorized with par value of 3 pesos, of which 600,000 shares are outstanding. The authorized stock dividend, or the company authorized a stock dividend when the market value was 8% per share, or 8 pesos per share, entitling its shareholders to 1 additional share for each share held. So same din lang, 1:1 yun. The par value of the stock did not change, assuming the declaration is not recorded separately. What entry, if any, should Ellis make to record distribution of the stock dividend? So that's simply 1:1, 600,000 times 3. So that's 600 times 3, 1,800,000. So ito na yung sagot. Diniretso na kasi wala daw separate entry for the declaration. So, diretsong bayad, debit retained earnings, credit common stock. So, lagay natin yung note natin. This is a 100% stock dividend. Stock dividend. So, this is going to be large. Okay? Which is valued at par only. So, yun na. Kaya ang sagot natin dyan ay kung magkano lang yung par value. So, lagay natin 600,000, multiply natin ng 3 pesos. So, that's 1,800,000. So, that's the answer for 31. 32 tayo. The following data are extracted from the stockholders' equity section of the balance sheet. Okay, ang tinatanong dito, net income. Okay, so kumbaga parang magkakaroon tayo ng transaction analysis dito. So, common stock ito yung change, APIC ito yung change, retained earnings ito yung change. Okay? During 2002, the corporation declared and paid cash dividend of 7.5 and also declared and issued stock dividend. Okay, there were no other changes in stock issued and outstanding during 2002. Net income for 2002 was, okay, so, saan tayo magfo-focus dyan? Mag-focus tayo dun sa change in retained earnings. Okay? Kaya supposedly, retained earnings only increased, nag-increase lang daw siya ng 2,300. Pero ang hinahanap natin, ano pa yung mga nabawas or ano pa yung mga items dito na natanggal resulting to the ending becoming 52,300. So, i-rework natin yung entries natin. So, first is yung declaration ng cash dividend. So, this is going to be retained earnings. Okay? Na 7,500. Credit tayo ng cash dividends payable. Ano ba? Paid naman eh. Cash na lang. Ganyan na. Diretso. 7,500. Okay? Pagkatapos, nagkaroon din daw ng stock dividend. So, yung stock dividend, malamang yung increase dito resulted from the stock dividend, di ba? So, retained earnings, kasi yun naman yung sinabi ng problem, that's going to be from the increase in the common stock. So, nag-increase lang yung common stock ng 1,000. Tapos, yung share premium, nag-increase ng 4,000. So, malamang ito ay 5,000. Okay, so from there, if we are going to rework, pwede ka namang gumamit ng T account, no? So, insert na lang tayo dito ng table para dun sa T account natin. Medyo malaki. Anyway, bayan na natin. I-merge na lang natin to. Merge. Ay, sorry. Para lang makagawa tayong T account. So, this is going to be your retained earnings. Okay, so yung retained earnings natin, dito yung beginning, dito yung ending. Beginning balance is 50,000. Ano yung mga na-debit daw? Dito may mga debit dito. So may na-debit dito na 7,500 at saka 5,000. Okay, yung ending balance daw natin ay 52,300. Okay, so ibig sabihin, ang kailangan natin gawin is hanapin natin yung nandito. So, pag tinotal mo yung lahat ng nasa debit side, 52,300 plus 7,500 plus 5,000, that's 64,800. Bawas natin yung 50,000 na beginning balance. So, that's 14,800. So, yun lang naman yung pwedeng i-credit dito na pertaining to your equity. Okay? So, malamang ang entry na nangyari dyan is debit to income summary. 14,800. Credit tayo ng retained earnings. 14,800. Okay, so ito yung lahat ng sagot natin. Ilagyan ko na lang ng highlight ito. Yan. Para makuha natin yung sagot. Okay, so that is our answer for number 32. Number 33. Cohen Corporation owns 1,000 shares of common stock of Berg Incorporated, a large publicly traded company listed on a major stock exchange. If Berg uses a 20% stock dividend when the par value is 10 per share and the market value is 70 per share, how much and what type of income should Cohen report? Okay, the answer is 0. Siya ay shareholder ni Berg. Okay? Nag-declare si Berg ng dividend. So, sa point of view nung ating investor, since that is a stock dividend, that is simply recorded as a memorandum entry. Okay? This share dividend is recorded as a memo entry under the books of Cohen. So wala po tayong gagawing entry dyan na debit credit kasi this is going only to result in, so this will result to increase in the number of shares held by Cohen, resulting to decrease in the per share book value, or carrying value na lang para hindi carrying value of the investment. Okay, so parang yun din sa mga investment in equity securities natin. So 0 yung mangyari dyan kasi wala namang income talaga from the share dividend. Okay, 34 tayo. The following was abstracted from the accounts of Oak Corporation. What should be the current balance of the retained earnings? So total income, cash dividends paid, proceeds from sale of donated stock, total value of the stock dividend distributable or distributed, excess of proceeds over the cost of treasury stock sold. Okay, so lagyan na lang natin to ng note, no? Okay, so kopyahin ko to. Lagyan natin dito sa baba. Tapos bawasan ko lang to para malagyan natin ng note dito. Okay. So itong total income since incorporation, this is going to be retained earnings. Itong total cash dividend paid, deduct yan sa retained earnings. Itong proceeds from the sale of donated stock, share premium. Sorry, ba't gumagano'n? Anyway, total value of stock dividends distributed is going to be deducted from retained earnings also. Tapos excess of proceeds over the cost of treasury stock sold is share premium also. Okay, so from there, so kapag ginano natin yan, so ang magiging effect lang sa retained earnings will be 420 tapos minus 130 minus 30,000. Okay. So compute natin 420 minus 130 minus 30,000. So 260 yung balance. So yun na yung balance ng ating retained earnings. Okay, so that's going to be letter A. Next, this will be the last. Stanley Corporation has incurred losses from operations for several years. At the recommendation of the new president, the board of directors voted to implement a quasi-reorganization subject to shareholder approval. Immediately prior to the restatement, ito yung mga balances natin. So the stockholders approved the quasi-reorganization effective July 1 to be accomplished by a reduction in other assets of 150, a reduction in PPE of 350, and appropriate adjustment to the capital structure. To implement the quasi-reorganization, Stanley should reduce the common stock account in the amount of... Okay, so first, alamin muna natin kung ano yung effect doon sa retained earnings ng ating reduction ng other asset and PPE. So, ang mangyari dito, debit tayo ng retained earnings. Hindi pa natin alam yung total. Credit natin dito yung other assets at saka yung PPE. So yung other assets natin will be reduced by 150. Tapos yung PPE natin will be adjusted ng 350. So ibig sabihin yung ating debit sa retained earnings ay 500,000. Okay. So pagkatapos nun, ang nangyari dyan ngayon, ang mangyari is common shares 16 pa rin. 16 ba? 16. Tapos yung share premium will be 300,000 pa rin. Tapos yung ating retained earnings, negative na siya ng 900. Okay. So, ang mangyari dyan, para ma-take effect natin yan, ang gagawin natin is i-debit muna natin si share premium. Share premium for 300,000. Di ba yung i-credit natin sa retained earnings, para ma-eliminate ay 900,000 kasi yun yung total. So, ibig sabihin, mag-absorb si common shares ng kulang pa na 600. Yun siya. So, after nan, our common shares, so ilagay ko na lang to, kopyahin ko to. After that, your common shares will now become 1 million. Kasi nabawasan siya ng 600. Share premium will be 0. Tapos retained earnings natin, 0 na rin. 0. Okay, so basically, the answer there, reduce the common stock by 600. Ito yung entries natin. Ito yung balances after the effect of the journal entries. So basically, that is our answer for our share premium. Okay, ay yung ating shareholders equity.